there's no bed in Daga because there's no bitachon.
Okay, my friends, we're live. We're back in. Likutey Halachos. Halachah Alef Haboker. Oz Gimel. And before we begin, just wanted to wish the Rebbe a beautiful birthday, and Zot Hashem should be a beautiful year for him, and any orders that comes from the learning that we do should be in his schus, and that he should achieve all that he needs to achieve, and have bracha, mazel, and tzlacha, 120 and beyond. As well, a refuah shlema for my sister Batsheva Esther Balayas Yehudis, for her speedy recovery. She had surgery recently. And kol yeshuas for everyone who needs here in Klal Yisrael. Shrat Hashem. Let's just take stock of where we're holding in this piece. Reb Noson, in the name of his Rebbe, Rebbe Nachman, has introduced us to the concept of finding the good. When a person, b'dafka, is assessing himself, herself, and in his or her own mind begins to see all the blemishes and mistakes, Rebbe Nachman implores us, you have to dig deep. I'll share with you, this is a remarkable story. I had a patient yesterday. I'll try to say this sensitively, who was abused as a child, and his sister also was abused by the uncle. And when he discovered that his sister was being victimized, this patient of mine literally he killed his uncle in like a vigilante type of way, and went to jail for 21 years. And
how old was he?
He was probably in his 20s, early 20s, 21. And when I first met him, he was all disheveled, crazy, like hair, not because he had, it just probably homeless, I'm not sure, and I read his chart and I was, oh my gosh, I said to the charge nurse, I was like, do you know that guy? He killed somebody. He's like, yeah. But not because he was a bad guy, but because he was a victim, and I had the merit of doing a nursing group yesterday. And at the end of the group, we were talking about Likutey Halachos. I didn't quote Rebbe Nachman directly. Sometimes if I'm bold, I'll say Rebbe Nachman's name in group. I'll say my teacher. He lived 200 years ago. And this guy, he said, and we're all going around sharing Likutey Halachos, and he says, I'm a caring person. And he's saying how when he's on drugs and alcohol, he's not a caring person, he's a violent person. But the Likutey that he was drawing out was that underneath it all, at the core, he was a caring person. And thematically, this is, B'ezrat Hashem, exactly what we're going to uncover today in the discourse, is that amongst the darkness of oneself, so to speak, is that diamond in the rough, that Likutey Tova. It was remarkable to hear a man who has been through so much share that I'm a caring person, and I recognize that when I'm on drugs and alcohol, I'm not that person, but in truth, I am that's really who I am. And he left the group. He said to me, he goes, that was like the best group I've ever been to. I was like, okay, great, And he brightened up, I always wonder about people who have been through incredible suffering, how they have these moments of just brightness. They're able to, tap into maybe a new hope. But B'ezrat Hashem, we should tap into that indomitable spirit and He himself should have a refuah shlema. So we're talking about the world of the mind. We're talking about, as my Rebbe of Gurzy would explain, frameworks of thinking. Frameworks of thinking. A zamra is, and that's what we'll call this concept of seeking the good, finding the good within ourselves, finding the good within others, is a way of thinking. And as I was reflecting upon this, it's like we have our life experience, and it's like, oh yeah, Rebbe Nachman is asking me to look at life vis-a-vis my glasses of a zamra, and then we think to ourselves like, everything but what I went through today, that doesn't count, and so what happens is that we forget to apply the framework because it takes a lot of energy, it takes work to apply the framework of zamra, and so what happens is our eye gets a little bit lazy, and it's so much easier to be mistakel upon things that are not going right. I'll share this story, hopefully not too vulnerable, but we got to be candid here. My daughter this morning wanted to feed my baby, but we were in a little bit of a rush. She's like, I want to feed her. I'm like, no, I'm going to feed her. And she is, but she's resisting, and I'm like getting more frustrated, right? And then she gets frustrated, and then she like hits her sister in the head. She like whacks her in the head. And I'm like, okay, and I go into my gevura mode, she's like 2.5, and afterwards, and I was like, gosh, did I handle that correctly? Was I a good tati in that scenario? And this is where we have to like put on our Zemer glasses, is precisely in these types of situations, our daily moment-to-moment experiences. And I was like, as I was driving her to daycare, I was like, and what that did was that put me in a mood. I was like moody, and I was like, well, number one is like I can reflect, I can find the good, meaning I was like, okay, wow, Baruch Hashem, I have 2 daughters, and Baruch Hashem, there's a bottle to fight over. And Baruch Hashem, she wants to feed her. That's like a good thing, she wants to take care of her. And so as I was preparing for this year, I was thinking about this concept of in the moment and after the moment. Because if we want to really apply the mindset piece here that Reb Noson and Rebbe Nachman are offering us, it's like after the moment offers us the opportunity to go, let me just find the good in this situation, or how do I want to respond in this moment, so that when you get to in the moment, you're more prepared. That's like a practical lemaisa piece I was thinking about. So there's you have to capitalize and utilize the after the moment really well, because that's going to give you the insight, and then from that perspective, when you get back into the moment, whatever you're encountering, it's like I'm more prepared. So B'ezrat Hashem, some candid, real stories here from the front lines. Zeh bechinas os gimel. Ora kavodi ura haneva vechinor ha'ira shachar. I'll bring another pasuk from Tehillim 57:9, and this is alluded to in yet another verse in which David HaMelech alludes to arousing from spiritual slumber, and he says, "Awake, my soul, awake, the harp and lyre, I will awaken the shachar." Hayinu, that is to say, that is to say that a person must stir himself from his sleep. It's okay. Hashem was even involved in that. In other words, a person must stir himself from his sleep and lift himself up from his spiritual decline. And by what means should he wake himself up? He has to look deep within himself and find the good points that he can still find in himself. And so the idea that he's introducing is that this is conceptually connected to the dawn. And this is the deeper meaning of when David HaMelech said, I will awaken the dawn. A
little bit to go into sometimes simple meaning gives you better the simple of. I think when Shulchan speaks to Idul Shulcha, he's saying that not the morning should wake you. You should waken the dawn. That you should be getting up even earlier.
Yes.
Than you should be awakening the dawn. So over here he's saying that I will awaken the dawn. That means the night. I will awaken the day.
Exactly, 100%. Bingo, spot on. Because we can't underscore this enough. This concept of it's my responsibility to take ownership over my spiritual life. I'm in spiritual sleep. I got to wake myself up. And so, like in our modern, in our modern sensibilities, we're like, personal responsibility. Pass the book to someone else. But Rebbe Nachman of Noson, as the Rebbe is saying to us, is like, I'm awakening the dawn. I'm awakening the good within me. I'm putting in that psychological, emotional, spiritual effort, working hard. This stuff is not, this is not easy. This is like black belt, Navy SEAL, Jedi warrior, take your warrior of pick type of stuff over here in terms of the energy of the mind that's involved in being mavakesh the good, because it's much easier not to. But the reward is like, spiritual awareness. Yeah. Beautiful. For a person's good is the aspect of the shachar. Like the dawn, and it emerges out of the darkest darkness, as alluded to in the verse, I am shachor, but pleasing, O daughters of Yerushalayim. Uvgamim arbe shepagam ze adam aidezen nidma shehu shechora. Because mixed in with this good point are many impurities and many spiritual blemishes of which the person is guilty. The good point consequently seems black. This is like this is a profound psychological insight that we're about to dive into. Ki menuchas bikadros uveshachrus hashalom atlu. Is unable to appreciate how pleasing and beautiful good point actually is. His hidden point is buried. Bloom dark. It's being added right between the need for and there's a we might possibly miss the good because we think the good is dyed this darkness, this dark color. All done is he wakes and he finds an effect point. Then his good point says about itself, I'm black, but pleasing. And do not look down on me on account of my blackness. That is, though I may appear black, I'm actually very full. I want it to be black, which is inherent in me. As she comments. Rabbi son, Afilu Eitzel Poshe Yisrael. Hinavi B'Yafa Ma'od. For in and of itself, that good point inside each person, even in Jewish sinners, this is a Peladica thing. When we think about how far-reaching this statement goes, even in Poshe Yisrael, that good point is still very pleasing and beautiful. It's just that the darkness covers it, and it's unapparent. Aval but Kishim Osahi Omeret Shachorani Benave Al Turini Shani Shechores. Once that good point is awakened, it declares, I'm black but pleasing. Do not look down on me on account of my blackness. Kimetzad Atzmi Ani Nave Od Ma'od. That good point in and of itself is intrinsically exceedingly beautiful. This relates to what Chazal teach regarding the verse. Shechora ani b'maisa egel v'nava ani b'maisa hamishkan. They explain that the Jewish people are saying, I am black through the incident of the golden calf, but I'm pleasing through the matter of the Mishkan. Hayinu, that is to say, af al pishesh lo chatem arbe v'nisrachak V'nis rachakti ma'od mimenu yisbarach. Meaning, although my sins are many and I become very distant from Hashem, I'm nevertheless pleasing to Hashem when I look for my good points. Ki b'chinas ma'isa egel shekol chatim ba'olam. And this derives from the following, that my sins are many, suggested of Chazal's reference to the incident of the golden calf, because idolatry is the sin inclusive of all sins in this world. Ki kol hamod ba'avodah zara ki ilo kofi b'chol haTorah kula. If whoever worships idolatry, it is as if he repudiates the entire Torah. Afal pikein, nevertheless, v'nava andi b'mayisa mishkan. Nevertheless, despite my sins, I'm pleasing, owing to the matter of the Mishkan. That is to say, I'm pleasing to Hashem by virtue of the aspect of that little bit of good that I still find in myself. And if this is beginning to sound repetitive, it's good, because it needs a lot of chazara. That's how Reb Noson writes. He's weaving, so the ideas get etched in to the person's nefesh, into his ruach, into his neshama. Now, he's iterating and he's building concepts as we go along here. The introduction to the concept of the dawn, etc. But you're like, this is like the fourth week we're talking about Likutey Tova, and it's like, yes, where are you holding your Likutey Tovas? Like, oh, I didn't even start yet. It's like, exactly. We need a chazara. Ki teichev acher ma'isa igel nitzavu Malachas Mishkan. For immediately after the incident of the golden calf, the Jewish people were commanded regarding the construction of the Mishkan. Ayil Deish and its Ratze, Hashem Yisbarach Yisrael, Ayidem Moshe Rabbeinu, Shematzu Nafsho Lehem, Yispalav Adam.
He's saying a very important thing over here. Yeah. He's saying that what was the worst Avera? Worst Avera was what Klal Yisrael was the Egel.
Right.
Couldn't be worse than this. And right away, he's going in. So that's like being into the darkest place where you can't get darker and darker. And right away after it, he tells them to do the Melech Mishkan. And what's the Melech Mishkan? That the Rebbe should rest upon you. And that's the only way is finding through the Nicholas. That's what I. There's a special hashpah tonight. It's the Rebbe's birthday, and he's on point. And I'm so happy the Rebbe brought this up. We have to chop this. How far-reaching this is. When you talk about like what's the chiddush of Rebbe Nachman. I heard in the name of my cousin, in the name of I think Rav Kivak, one of the big Mashpi in Breslov, who he's grown very close to, thank God. That I think he was talking to him about what's unique about Rebbe Nachman. And I think what Rav Kivak said, if I remember correctly, was this Indian of Rachmanis, compassion. There's a compassion here. That no matter where a person finds himself in his or her avodas Hashem, person who's at more refined levels of avodas Hashem, or a person who is at more coarse levels of avodas Hashem, that the Indian of Nekuda Tovas applies always. I mean, as the Rebbe pointed out, we're talking about like avodah zarah is the opposite of Hashem. You can't get more opposite than that. And yet, even though that concept as we're seeing in the Lashon, even though, afal pikein, nevertheless, you have to find that little bit of good, that crumb of good, that fragment of good, and somehow, some way, that fragment of good is going to be misorah him, and he's going to do tshuva, and he's going to have simcha, he's going to come back.
Well, all the more so, because the remedy, in addition to the Mishkan, there's that which is for the generations that we have now. We have the 13 midos that we say in Tefillah, where
we're going to get there,
Moshe
actually. Very nice. Beautiful. Keep going.
Basically, the concept that no matter where we are, no matter how far we think that we've fallen, there is an element to teshuva that is always accessible to us, and we can see that deriving back to exactly like what Rebbe said, that we were given the Mishkan for the Shekhinah to rest upon us in direct response to the Chet Egel. We were given this tefillah that we can say, that we say with Tachanun every day, those of us who do, or that we say with Slichos when other people say them there. And if you really dissect those midot, they're incredibly powerful. And
Right.
if we tie the idea of Hashem's compassion through them into all of the elements of the world and what we're learning here, the Nakudos are in front of us.
Yeah.
The remedies are there, the Teshuvah is there, the ability to see your soul as having been blackened but redeemable is always in front of you.
Right. We're really it's in this section that he's going to literally utilize the 13 midos, and he's going to read everything in there. So you were mechav into this. Yeah. Beautiful.
So it goes from one extreme to the other, right? The extreme of the golden calf goes directly to the extreme of the
Exactly.
Well, it's Mida Keneged Mida.
Right.
And you can also imagine if we also derive what Shabbos is today based on the malachos that were performed in Mishkan, if we didn't do Chet HaEgel, notwithstanding the idea that maybe we would already be in Olam Haba as a result right then, and that was the final pass of the Satan to try to save his own life, which he will do anytime you do Teshuvah. That's actually also one of the key lessons to derive there. The closer you bring the Satan to his own Shechita, the harder he's going to work, and he's going to do something like that to you. You got to always be aware and guard yourself. But that little tangent aside, I completely lost myself. I apologize.
That's okay. Let's find the good. You're doing great.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to say that you can go from being in a very low place to being in a very high place very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Because you have that capacity to go from one end to the other. It doesn't have to be a very long, drawn-out process.
Right.
You can switch
Yeah.
very quickly from being in a low point to being in a high point if you do the ways of Likutey Halachos. Seeing that, you can reset yourself almost.
And this is without a substance.
That's all.
See, before we did the Chet HaEgel, we didn't need a Mishkan. We're on the level that we didn't need.
Nice.
So the Hashem was like, oh, you think you need a medium like that? Let's do it in a kosher way, with the Nikudei Tovas, the
Beautiful.
kosher way of the Mishkan. They had good intentions in a way, but they did it
Right.
wrong.
Right. Oh, it's geschmack.
That does bring it back to the remedy then affecting what our definition of Shabbos is even to this day. We have tefillah, but we also have Shabbos as it is. Would there be a concept of malacha even? Or would
Right.
it be something else altogether because those malachos are only derived from the work of the Mishkan?
Right.
Or was that how he gave us Shabbos? So that we could complete it?
This is at least where the work in being Mavakesh, the Nikudei Tovas, which is going to make that nigun and have our, so to speak, our own inner Mishkan. As we do the voda. The voda is key. So I'm happy Hashem set it up the way that help us grow the nurture and also the dominator of seeking the good and cleaning ourselves. Immediately after the incident of the golden calf, the Jewish people were commanded regarding the construction of the Mishkan. Hashem is Moshe Benu, Adam. Thus, Mishkan was built as a result of Hashem become a favor disposed toward the Jewish people who sacrificed and bond that paid for. Moshe do this, that he was able to find a good point even in the least worthy Jew, as explained a number of times in his teachings. The by dint is Moshe being able to pay for always with my even when I transgressed the higher Torah, he never found which tzaddik. That's the godless of the tzaddik. It's not necessarily how high the tzaddik is. It's how I think Rebbe Nachman says in the first teaching of the that the end of the tzaddik is maybe it's I can't remember exactly where. It's I think the guess of the tzaddik is the passage down deep. Pull all out for bar. Valkin Amar Moshe Lama Hashem Yechera Amcha B'Mechem Chulei. This is the reason Moshe said why Hashem should have burn sheep. Moshe found good in the people, so it told them for he said, why Hashem should your wrath burn against your people, since he saw that the evil was of no import. The evil was of no import compared to the little bit good still inside him. Hashem is brought from the Ratzelo. And so he became filled with exposed to him, he did evil. Lead Hashem's brought remote to be able to see that. Shlo Hashem Shal Benjamin was very mechavan to him. And then Hashem taught Moshe the order of the prayer for effecting divine favor at a time of din. And he laid up from them 13 attributes of mercy. This is why I will always pass in front of you. For Hashem knows Moshe attributes to him his good as it were, also that Moshe would know that Hashem is always good to all. Hashem wants Moshe also that it is possible to wake good in the to a person and to move him of it and bring back the shuv. Concept from Liberty, which I saw this. Success breeds success. Failure does not breed success. And if there's many things we're learning, Hashem, we're learning the idea of Machazik. We're looking at people who are seeing success. We are seeing success, we're celebrating success. You have been, it's this bad made friend. I remember, there's an idea when Yaakov selling people. Because when you identify the tov inside of them, and you give them a shkoyach, right, that's motivating for that person to keep going. And maybe they're messing up many different areas. They're like, gosh, you're just terrible. Look at all areas, Vodas Hashem button. Not going to feel, he's not going to motivate. And it's like, Voda, reduced to pinning good, and it was within ourselves. And there's a person in this community that does this exceedingly well. My beloved friend, I think we know him, some of us know him. If you don't know him, you should know him, and you should buy his book. Bob Baroque is masterful at this. He is constantly, is the he will talk to, will fuck with you specific. Like he wrote legacy. He davens at the good a lot. And then the Chabur. His book is over here. He's one of the few Machon Yaakov alumni who published a book, Sefer, and highly recommend everyone check it out. When the conversation yesterday with me, and that was also for me potential. It's amazing. It's Baruch Hashem, we have role models like this in the community, and Baruch Hashem, we are role models, exemplify the young.
I just wanted to prove it inside. I was thinking about it as we were talking about the Mishkan. It says in first or second Simon, is the Mishkan was you finding into Nakuda and others. That was you building your personal Mishkan, remember?
Yeah.
So somehow it's...
Yeah. Beautiful. We're going to go dive the Yud Gimel. Mizenish Los Rani those Rachamim Hashem Hashem Rachamim Rachamim. It is the concept of the theme attribute of Rachamim Medaverse. Hashem Hashem slow to anger. Hashem Yisbrach Male Rachamim Etov L'Chol. For Hashem is filled with compassion and good to all. Umarich Av L'Tzadikim V'Le Rishoyim. He is patient with both the righteous and the wicked. I remember my I'm having going conversation with my great brother. I was saying a message from him. Said whatever. I guess I was having to receive my friend. It's like if Rebbe Nachman has to be patient, and if he's not patient, he's not the tzaddik yesod olam. It's a deal they're patient with us. They're just patient with us. Don't have to do it all now. And just in favor. This is them that we talk to in the and he also finds a good point even in Jewish sinners. And that where he tips the scales of justice for them toward the scale of merit, as mentioned above, and then Hashem is doing this. The guys in shul that were like, why is he so that? It's like, we can tolerate that. We'll learn them to speak that. Okay, sometimes class, okay, we'll get it. This is a new and shuir verse. He keeps 1,000. At first, the concept of chesed, that Hashem inclines towards loving kindness, judges favorably and finds a good point, even in the least worthy Jew, thereby enabling him to do this, or opening up for that person to Hashem. This chesed and made punishments for thousands of sins. Hayinu afal pishes keneged ze alafim uravavos pagagim shebagam osadam. In other words, even though counting a person's merits are the thousands, 10,000s of bloodshed, this person made alpha can make mosi a little bit of good as fine by inclining towards it, them all. And as a result, Hashem forgives iniquity and rebellion and pardons the sinners. And since through this Hashem inclines towards kindness, he generally enters the scale of merit. Allah section over. Hashkamos comes back to sense. You like hated. La 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 la.